Hi. So I don't typically do breaking news, but it looks like there's going to be a government shutdown, and I don't trust the mainstream media not to rich wash the information for you. So I want to get you the information straight from the source. So we're just going to have a quick conversation with Catherine Clark, the Democratic Minority Whip of the House, to get you a sense of what's really going on behind the scenes with this shutdown. So, Whip Clark, how's it going?
It is really something. Donald Trump hasn't even taken the oath of office, and already he is disrupting work that we are doing here in Congress on behalf of the very wealthy and the very powerful. And who is paying the price once again? It's the American people.
So I'm just going to give people a little background on this, and you correct me if I'm wrong. The House of Representatives had a bipartisan bill designed to keep the government open through March that the Republicans and the Democrats had agreed on. As I see it, the bill would have honestly been pretty good for the incoming administration, as it would have given Trump a lot of room in the early days of his presidency to do what he wanted because the government was funded and there was no crisis looming that could be blamed on him. So as far as I understand it, he and Vice President-elect Vance were pretty much on board for this bill. And then Elon Musk, the Trump-appointed co-head of DOGE, the made-up Department of Government Efficiency, decided to just kill the bill on his own by tweeting the bill should not pass to his 200+ million Twitter followers at 4:15 in the morning a couple days ago. And then he went on this tirade against the bill over the course of the day, making claim after claim, many of them false, calling the bill everything from criminal to unconscionable and threatening to primary any Republican who wouldn't support it. I mean, just obviously saying that he would just pay for any opponent's run. He's basically shaking them down. That's how an oligarchy works. Representatives are supposed to represent the people. Elon is saying, you do what I want, and the Republicans, including President-elect Trump, are just going along with it. This is the world's richest person deciding how America runs, and he's putting himself above Congress and above our checks and balances and above the president. Both of them.
Yeah, you've nailed it. And what we have in Elon Musk is someone who makes $55 million a day, has never seen a child care bill he couldn't afford, has never gone to the grocery store and rapidly put back items because you can't afford the bill. He has never had a house that he couldn't purchase. He's never had rent that he couldn't make that check. He has never cut up prescription drugs because he can't afford whatever he might need for his medication. But these are the daily occurrences in our country for everyday people who are working to make ends meet. And they feel like the system is rigged against them, because it is. And let's back up a little bit in this budget process, because we use a lot of jargon and it's confusing on how we got here. One of the fundamental responsibilities in Congress and in the House, where the budget starts, it has to come from the House to the Senate, is to pass a budget. And our fiscal year is October 1st, and we do it through a committee called Appropriations. We decide on all the budget pieces and subcommittees in that committee, and then we bring them to the House floor. The last time that we actually did this process in the House was when Democrats were in the majority. What we've seen for the last 2 years is they cannot come together as a majority party and do this fundamental basic requirement of governing. So what we have are what we call continuing resolutions, which is just a big couple of words to describe an extension of the budget. We keep extending the current budget, and we come together and negotiate. So we have been in this position of being on the verge of a shutdown in the 118th Congress the last 2 years, 6 times. And each time it is Democrats, it is our caucus that has come together and said, we do not like a lot of what is in this, but you know what's best for the American people? That we keep Social Security checks coming, that we pay our military families, that we keep the fundamental services going. And so here we are. They brought us to the brink of a shutdown again. It expires tomorrow on Friday. And so we have been negotiating with them for months, and in particular, since the election, on how to come together. We made that agreement. We were ready to go. And then our billionaire friend, who is now the unelected president of the United States, Elon Musk, decides that doesn't work for him, because what's at stake for him is even greater wealth. There is no end to his greed. And he has a plan under his unelected position to take away Social Security, to take away childcare, to do nothing to reduce the cost of living for families, and instead make sure that his wealth through government contracts, through tax breaks, continues to grow.
And I want people to understand what Catherine's talking about here is that we haven't passed a real budget since the Democrats were in power. We keep kicking the can down the road and sort of pushing it 3 months, pushing it 3 months, pushing it 3 months, because the Republicans, by all intents and purposes, cannot govern. They just keep pushing things down. They're an obstructionist party. So if the government does shut down and you don't get access to the services that you depend on before the holidays, if you can't get into a national park, if you are active duty military and you don't get paid, if you're receiving federal aid because, say, you had a hurricane disaster in your state this year, you're not getting that because of this government shutdown. If we don't fund the government, that means they're not inspecting your food to make sure it's safe. Nutrition programs for children will shut down. Clean water programs will shut down. Federal workers who do things like air traffic control and U.S. border and customs, they won't get paid, just as travel is ramping up. So that makes you less safe in America. These are important, essential things that Americans need. And the billionaire class, but particularly this one billionaire, is holding the entire country hostage. And he can get in his own private plane, but the rest of us are going to be in a lot of trouble eating our food and flying in planes. So this one man has effectively blocked an entire government spending bill by mobilizing his followers on a platform he bought with his money to influence a future president that he bought with his money. And as Catherine was saying earlier, Trump's not even in office yet, and he's already doing massive damage to the country, because you can see from Elon's position that these cabinet nominees, these people that Trump is putting in charge of things, are an extremely dangerous group who don't understand the government role that they're coming into and have no intention of helping the American people. And this is a prime example of that.
That's right. And it is very important for Elon that he not be named a cabinet member, that he operate outside but very close to the Oval Office, because that way he does not have to do what everyone else in government has to do. Make sure that you file ethics reports, that you are transparent with the holdings that you have, that there are no conflicts, that you do not hold government contracts. But Elon wants it always. He wants to be able to influence and create greater wealth for himself and for the other billionaire class, and operate in an essential way as sort of a shadow president, but never actually have to do any of the disclosures or meet the ethical requirements that a cabinet member would have to. So this situation is exactly as you put it. He has bought the campaign for Donald Trump, and now he is the puppeteer in this situation. And at the end of the day, whatever happens here, Elon Musk is going to be just fine. But you know who isn't? Are American people who are angry because they feel the system is rigged against them. And this is a classic example of using our budget process, using the essentials of government services. And you will not find a single Democrat who would not join in the operation of looking at our budget and saying, how can we be more efficient? How can we get the best bang for a taxpayer buck? How can we make sure that we are reducing corruption and making sure that we operate ethically and do it efficiently? But that is not the game here. The game here is to get power and consolidate further. The whole focus is the tax policies that are coming in the next few months. And once again, because Donald Trump did it in 2017, and he is planning to do it again. Cuts to corporations, giveaways to billionaires, and the rest of us, regular Americans, will be footing the bill.
Yeah. I mean, I think what people need to understand is if the government shuts down, the richest man in the world will be largely to blame, but so will the Republicans in Congress because they have real power. Elon doesn't, but they're choosing to defer to him. If Elon was so concerned about our debt and deficit, which is what he goes on and on about, that we're doing a lot of wasteful spending and he's just there to help, then he would be really upset about these tax cuts that they're planning, the Republicans are planning, the ones that Catherine's talking about, the ones that are just for the ultra rich. They're not for us, they're for the ultra rich, and they're going to balloon our deficit to around $5 trillion. If Elon was truly considered, about our deficit, he would be so upset about these tax cuts coming, but he's not, because of course they will benefit him and other billionaires like him. And this should outrage the American people because they're talking about now cutting social programs like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid to pay for these tax cuts. And that should make people outraged. And we should also talk about the fact that people like Trump are now taking this opportunity that the government might shut down to insist that we put in things like raising the limits for what we can spend in the government so that he can throw those tax cuts in easier when he comes into office in January. Now, look, Catherine, I'm not going to pretend this is the greatest bill in the world. It's way too long. I find these bills outrageous that you're supposed to read 1,500 pages and there's some weird, stadium put in there or something idiotic, or you guys are getting a 4% tax, a 4% raise and everyone gets outraged. But overall, this is a functional bill. I'm not saying it's the greatest bill, but it's a functional bill that keeps our government going and keeps our people employed and keeps our checks coming in and keeps our military and our food testing going. But thanks to Elon and Trump, it is essentially dead right now. So what are the Democrats going to do? Because I know you guys are going to get blamed. So what are you going to do? Are you helping them get through this? Are you helping Mike Johnson if he tries to get this passed? What's happening on your side with you guys?
Well, so far we have crickets from them. It has gone radio silent. We had a bill. We had the votes to pass the bill. We had 2 vote series yesterday scheduled, and then they pulled this bill and we haven't heard. There are lots of rumors about what they're talking about. Maybe they'll come up with something today or not, but we are not involved. This is a chaotic party fight within the Republican GOP, and the Democrats are standing with the American people, looking in, saying, is anyone working for the people who sent us here? Are you guys at all aware that you were just reelected and that what people want to see from us is that we come from different parts of the country, we come from different ideologies, and then we come together and make a better product. And the reason that this bill, as you said, 1,500 pages, a day or so to try and digest it, is in that shape is because they have punted on this fundamental responsibility to do a budget in a comprehensive, sensible way. And so to turn around and say, well, here we are, and the Democrats haven't agreed to this, is just it is so infuriating.
It's outrageous, Catherine. It's absolutely outrageous. And look, I'm critical. I'm critical of the Democrats. I'm critical of omnibus bills. I'm critical of anything you're supposed to read in 1,500 pages in one day. That's idiotic, right? But that's not what the Democrats have done. This is a Republican-controlled House. The House is in charge of the bill itself. The House is in charge of government spending. So this is a Republican problem that the Republicans have brought on themselves, even before they've come into federal power with the president and the presidency and them getting the Senate.
Yeah. And, they will definitely come back and say, oh, well, this debt ceiling, we can't explode our deficit. Donald Trump added a quarter of all our deficit in 4 years because of his tax policy that is rigged against everyday working people and in favor of the extremely, as you said, the ultra rich. That is who stands to benefit. They are rerunning the exact same play. And so here we go. We may come to an ability to keep government open. We will see what they come up with, but don't be fooled. We are moving right into a complete danger zone for the American people. And all those small businesses that are counting on government funding to recover from disasters, all the road work that needs to be done, the people in Florida and North Carolina, the farmers who not only need that disaster aid, but need a farm bill, which the Republicans have also failed to pass. They need to be able to have farm credits so they can do their planting now. What we're setting up here is a no-win situation. And when farmers can't plant, guess what happens? Grocery prices go up and continue to put pressure on household incomes and budgets. So this is foreshadowing of what is coming. And Democrats are going to do our best. We have continued to be the adults in the room. We are leaving the 118th Congress just as we started it, with 15 rounds of speaker votes for Kevin McCarthy and utter chaos. And they have continued that chaos and infighting. And the losers of that is not the Democratic caucus, it's the American people. And that's who we're going to continue to represent in this.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Catherine. And I really hope the media focuses their attention on the Republicans who are not doing their job, because then maybe more voters would be inclined to throw them out when they get a chance to do it. Because ultimately, this is utterly dysfunctional. You cannot run a government like
That's
this.
right.
You can't continue to not fund it. And we're getting a nice preview of what the next 4 years are going to look like. A party that can't govern, ruled by a man who has no business governing, and he's puppeteered by a man who wants to govern but can't because he is a foreign national, basically. So I think we need to be really careful, and people really need to understand who's fighting for them moving forward. And it really sounds like, although the Democrats are out of power, you guys are there working for the people. Because essentially what the Republicans are going to try and take us back to is another Gilded Age, right? Which is
That's right.
exactly what they want. A time before workers' rights and women's rights and civil rights, where concentrated wealth was corruption and buying the government, and it was hardship for everyone else. So we need to realize really fast what's happening so we can see in real time how we might be able to at least throw sand in the gears for the next 2 years until we're given a real election and we can take some power back.
That's right. And you just hit on a key word in all of this. This is what corruption looks like. When you can buy elections, when you can sit outside of government, yet control what happens to further build your own wealth. That is the exact situation we find ourselves as a country through Elon Musk and Donald Trump today.
Yeah. So if you find yourself sitting at a dining room table for someone over the holidays and they're saying that the Democrats caused this, I want you to know that this is not what we're doing. If we get a government shutdown that hurts average people in America, it was engineered by the richest person of America to help the richest people in America. And it is gross, and you should know that, and we should be blaming the right people.
Exactly.
Thanks, Catherine. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.